Hi, everybody. Happy New Year and welcome to our monthly hybrid cloud demo series. My name is Yvonne Balderas, and with us today we have Dan Seghetti, who's a cloud solutions engineer here at Trend Micro, and is going to be leading today's demo on ensuring no malicious objects are uploaded to your S3 or Azure Blobs with Trend Micro's Cloud One file storage security. Before we get started, I'd just like to point out that questions are highly encouraged, as the last half of this 30-minute session is going to be reserved for Q&A. Our monthly sessions are meant to be quick, informative, and interactive, so please pop in any questions you might have into the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, and we're going to try our best and get to all of those at the very end. So without further ado, I'll stop talking and hand it over to you, Dan.
Thanks so much, Yvonne. Yeah, it's good to be here. Good to see everybody join. I'll jump right into it and share my screen. So, like Yvonne mentioned, today we're going to be talking about Trend Micro's Cloud One file storage security, which is looking at your Azure Blob locations, your AWS S3 buckets, and basically looking to make sure that there are no malicious objects inside of those buckets. It's been a big ask of all of our customers to basically provide this kind of functionality within the cloud natively. And I'm going to review with everybody here just how we do that. But before I get too deep into that, just want to set the stage for us. There are a lot of cloud security challenges that we're trying to achieve and fix with Cloud One. Trend Micro's Cloud One platform, including the storage piece. This is focusing on S3, but this can be something that's effective for Azure Blobs and other locations as well. Typically, when we talk about S3 and Azure Blobs, we're talking about the configurations of those services. We do have a piece of the Cloud One portfolio that addresses that, which is conformity, our CSPM solution. We look at like the sufficient privileges for folks that are accessing that bucket, or the services that need to access that bucket, making sure that the least privileged access is enabled, making sure that there are no other misconfigurations continuously looking for them, and making sure that there's logging enabled on those buckets as well, so we can backtrack and see what happened historically for those storage locations. But one of the things that our customers and the market in general has kind of demanded from us is being able to check for content that's being uploaded to these locations that could potentially execute downstream, that could potentially be distributed to our customers, whether it be through a web front end, a mobile front end, just looking to make sure that the content that's being uploaded and brought into our infrastructure has been scanned at least once by something, right? And you'll see as we get into more cloud native practices, that becomes a little bit more difficult. So I bring forward this architecture example, right? And this is in AWS, but like I said, this can be translated in any types of infrastructure, right? So we have our web front end on the left-hand side, and these are our mobile users. And inside of that web front end, we have API layers, right? And we're uploading objects to our web application through the mechanism of an upload bucket. We have a notification layer. We have some business logic. This may be something that a lot of the folks on this line are familiar with. So we have this upload bucket and we have the notification layer, and we're uploading objects to it. Let's say, a malicious object were uploaded within this upload bucket. Now, depending on the functionality of your product, depending on the functionality of the service that you're giving, it could compromise the downstream workflow. Let's say you're using maybe a VM instead of utilizing Lambda or another serverless option. It could hit that VM if it doesn't have anti-malware running, if it doesn't have something like workload security running. That file could live on there and then be distributed or executed within the compute layer, right? Same thing with Lambda. It could be executed in Lambda, and obviously you just spin up another Lambda function, but it's something to be aware of because it will delay the distribution of whatever is that user's referencing, right? The most important one, the ones that I've found out in the wild that folks are really trying to get this functionality down for, is the distribution buckets. Let's say they're distributing content. They can't be potentially distributing bad content or malicious content to their user bases. Have a lot of customers that are trying to protect their users by using file storage security. And I'll show you just now how that alters a little bit within the architecture itself. So we have the same type of architecture, right? We did a really simple function here. We added, if you look inside the storage layer, we added a malware scanning lambda inside of the storage layer there, which will basically act to scan the objects that are placed inside of that upload bucket and then distribute them either to a promotion or a quarantine bucket, depending on the results of that scan. So let's say I upload, a piece of ransomware or malware, and it hits the upload bucket. Now, instead of just automatically being referenced by the notification layer, brought in through the business logic, and then distributed to whomever or wherever it's going downstream, right? We're able to segment the malware and malicious files off and keep only good files going downstream. Very simple from that perspective. And it's designed that way. We wanted this to be very easy. So without further ado, I can get into the architecture a little bit as well. Looks like okay. Cool. So this is AWS's architecture flow. It's the same idea within Azure. You can replace the Lambda function names here with just the Azure serverless functions, Azure functions, and from a bucket perspective, you can replace it with the storage accounts, right? So, and blobs. So here we have a file and we have an S3 bucket that we're referencing here. I think of this S3 bucket as just the location where we're going to be referencing the files to scan. We have two stacks, a storage stack and a scanner stack. The verbiage for that can basically be tied to a CloudFormation template. You could deploy these two stacks together within one CloudFormation template, or you can deploy them separately within separate CloudFormation templates. The key piece of that is that they're aware of each other. So let's say you have a scanner stack inside of a centrally managed account, right? It's a security, cloud security account that we kind of house all of our security products in. You can keep that scanner stack over there. Let's say you have storage locations, all around the East Coast, Ohio, US East 1, even if you can go to US West, we can still centralize that scanner stack, maybe in US East 1 or Ohio as well, right? They're aware of each other. What we basically do with the storage stack is we attach that to an S3 bucket. So the S3 bucket we're going to stand up the CloudFormation template, and the S3 bucket is going to have objects get uploaded to it, right? And each time that an object gets uploaded to S3, a log gets dropped, S3 object created. And we're looking for that with this bucket listener lambda. The bucket listener lambda says, okay, there's a new S3 object created inside of that S3 bucket. Let me create a pre-signed URL to authenticate that object to SQS. It's a one-time token, doesn't get reused. It's a pre-signed URL that goes to SQS. SQS then acts to spin up a scanner lambda for that particular object. So in a maybe legacy perspective, what we used to do here is we would have a VM, right? And we would either make sure that the object gets dropped onto the VM so that it gets scanned, or another process using an application that's running on that VM. Either way, it was definitely more siloed, right? Now, what we can do with SQS is spin up compute for each individual file that gets dropped inside of that S3 bucket. What that accomplishes for us is that we can scan these files much faster. It doesn't hog down, let's say somebody uploads a 10 terabyte file or a 5 terabyte file. We're not waiting for that file to get scanned before we process the other 3 files that were uploaded behind it. We give the capability in the cloud and inside of the scanner lambda to just spin up as files get uploaded. So the scaling there is really, really what a lot of folks are excited about with this particular architecture. The scanner lambda itself, we're checking for known good and bad malware. We're checking for, we're using the same engines that are inside of our deep security products, if you're familiar with that, or Cloud One Workload Security, if you're familiar with that product line. And we're just looking for known good, known bad files, known vulnerabilities that exist inside files, things of that nature. On the right-hand side, where it says the Trend Micro domain, a great point of reference here is that everything exists within your AWS account. So we're not streaming any content outside of the AWS account. It's all within the walls of your organization. The Trend Micro domain gets referenced if we happen to find a file that we don't have a signature pattern for. We'll go out to the Trend Micro domain. We'll send a CRC hash of that file. So we're not ever sending content. We're going to sending a CRC hash of that file to the Trend Micro domain. determining if we have a new signature pattern for it or if we don't, and then we're bringing that information back down to the scanner Lambda. From there, the scanner Lambda will, the scan results get published to an SNS scan result topic. If you're familiar with this in the cloud, you'll know that this gives us a ton of capability when it comes to what happens downstream. We're publishing 3 main tags. It's going to be the date that it got scanned, the result of the scan, whether it be clean or malicious, as well as if it was a successful scan. From there, the post-scan tag action Lambda will tag the file. So the object will have a tag associated with it. And based on that tag, we can do some post-scan actions. So in the example in this architecture, we have this customized post-scan action that's going to quarantine any object that has the malicious tag associated with it. So it checks for that. When we get a new malicious object, it gets put inside of the quarantine bucket. Overall, this is a pretty simple architecture to implement. Like I said, it's only 2 CloudFormation templates, and it could be deployed within 1 as well. I used the example of a customer that came to me and asked me, they utilized our RASP technology, application security. And they had asked me, how can I implement something that's utilized, that scans objects, but we're using S3 as the front end now. They implemented this within a 4-week window of going to production with a new architecture, and there were no issues after they deployed it. So great deployment strategy there. Let me just exit that. As far as Cloud One goes, if you're familiar with it, it's a single sign-on spot where you can access all the different all the different services that we have inside of Cloud One. More specifically, if we go to file storage security, you'll see that we have scan activity with some scan history here. And we have stack management where we can go to deploy our stacks. You can deploy it individually or together. I have stacks pre-populated inside of this AWS account that I'll be showing you guys today. So here's DGS test bucket 203. This is my repository for a malware file, and then I also am a big fan of The Simpsons, so I do the Lisa Simpson test GIF. Basically tells us that we should run a test.
Love it.
So if we drop these 2 inside of an S3 bucket that's being watched, let's say the scanning bucket is being watched, and I copy those over, I can go back to S3, and you'll see I have 2 buckets here. I have this promote and quarantine. So if we look at quarantine, we'll see that it was, let me go back and refresh that. The live demo gods are angry today. Let's refresh that quickly. May have turned that off for us, but I can give you guys an example anyways. You can tell it's been a while there. So in the quarantine, you can see with this iCar test file there that I've added some tags here. A scan date, a malicious result, and that the object was scanned. Same thing when it comes to the promote. We see that we have a scan date, no issues found, and true. So there's really no magic to that piece, but it did get, as you can see, they'll be moved to new bucket locations because I did set up that post-scan action. I actually think I referenced the wrong one, so here it is. There we go, January 4th, 2022. Sorry about that. But same results. So no magic in that category. We just go ahead and see that the objects were moved based off of the results. You can obviously reference this inside of CloudWatch or anywhere else that you'd like to export those logs to. But like I mentioned, they're also available inside of the Cloud One console. So you'll be able to see those as they come up as well. takes a few minutes to propagate here, but that, as you can see, I did a little test earlier today to make sure it worked. So you'll see that that's what they'll look like. And that's just about everything as far as it comes to the functionality goes. What I would say is, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Response times to these scans are really fast, typically less than 5 seconds for most files. Even terabyte-sized files won't, push the execution limit of Lambda. So, any file type, any file size, we can support and scan and help you out with the movement of those files as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan, for a great demo. So
Absolutely.
I'm checking right now the Q&A. Looks like we currently don't have any questions, which means you gave an excellent demo and people don't have any questions, but we can go ahead and address some commonly asked questions that we get, starting with what other cloud providers do we also support? Probably a quick answer.
Yeah, we support currently it's AWS and Azure. We are going to support GCP at some point this year, is the plan. So definitely able to support those. And if I can take a minute to show the folks at home. One place that you can go to see some more information is cloud1.trendmicro.com/docs. We have a very in-depth knowledge base of all of our products, file storage security. A big shout out to our PM team there, one of the best teams that have documentation up that explains every detail of this product, including the architecture. So to show you, just to give you an idea, when it comes to Azure, if you guys do have Azure folks out there, it's like I said, it's a lot of the same stuff. Having the storage account here, event system grid topic, the blob listener function, scanner queue. So there's no, between the two providers, there's no lapse of thought process when it comes to the architectures that we're helping you stand up. And everything is inside of those CloudFormation templates that we're providing you, right? You don't have to do any legwork on your side. You just have to pick a storage account. You just pick an S3 bucket. You fill out the CloudFormation template, which we can guide you through in the documentation, and you're up and running with it. One of the customers that I found out in the wild, actually, that pretty much just subscribed to Cloud One through the marketplace and started using FSS, used our documentation to stand everything up, and we only found out that there were Trend Micro customers after they reached out to us the first time. So definitely something easy to get up and running with.
Awesome. And we actually had a question pop in the chat right as I was speaking from Chris. In addition to supporting AWS and Azure, he wants to know if that also includes support for SharePoint.
So not currently, because basically the way that it works is that we need to use blob storage. So as long as whatever you place into the Azure blob will be able to scan. Azure files aren't supported right now. The way that we would scan that currently is if you had something like Cloud One workload security installed on a server, or maybe the endpoints that are referencing those shared network locations. We can scan network drives and mounted drives through that mechanism. SharePoint also has a product inside of Trend called CAS, which is Cloud App Security, where we can basically scan everything that's inside of one drive as long as we can hook into it using an API. So that's how we kind of attack that. This is more for, in the thought process, kind of big picture, if you have an internal process or if you have an application that's using blob storage or S3 as a main storage location, that's primarily the folks that are looking at this, and the use cases that we're looking at is storage locations where we're not scanning before or after, where we're mainly on the front line of where that data is coming in. That could be a third party, that could be an end user uploading an object to your application, things of that nature as well.
Awesome. Hopefully that answered your question, Chris. Another question, I know you had gone over post-scan actions. Mm-hmm. Can folks create their own post-scan actions?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. So we can go in and add post-scan actions. Let me move my face out of the way. And they're all hosted inside of GitHub. So we have my main contact on our PM team car pusher has created a GitHub page that houses all of our post-scan actions for the product. And what you can do is, I have the promote or quarantine one that I had set up for the demonstration today, where we can basically isolate files inside of quarantine buckets or promotion buckets. The template is there, the code is all there, it's all open source so that you can go in and alter it yourself. But let's say you just wanted to go in and stand it up. You can also just go to that page in the AWS Lambda console. We have the same functionality on the Azure side, and just fill out the CloudFormation template and hit deploy. It's all very well documented here in GitHub. I'll give you another example that I've seen folks do is the email notification if they have to inform a channel. If a malicious object has been uploaded to S3, they can do that. We have Security Hub integration there, Slack and Teams, same thing on Azure as well. So no shortage of functionality there.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, it looks like we have no further questions in the Q&A.
Awesome.
As we're closing out, if anything does come up and we can answer it, we definitely will. But wanted to make sure to say thanks to everybody who joined us today. I know that for a lot of us, it's our first day back from the holidays, so we definitely appreciate you giving us some of that time today, and hope that you guys learned something and got something out of this that's valuable. Let me share my screen really quickly. Forgot how to work Zoom. All right, so I also wanted to let you guys know, if you'd like to get hands-on with Cloud One, a little bit more hands-on than watching a demo, you can definitely take advantage of our 30-day trials with free tiers on Cloud One. For file storage, we have the ability to scan buckets that have up to 20 files every hour for free. And we also have some offerings around our cloud security posture management service, cloud conformity, for open source security, as well as network. So if you'd like to give any of those things a try for free, they're definitely available to you on trendmicro.com/trial. And then I also wanted to let you guys know, later this month, we have an immersion day with AWS. It's going to be on the 20th from 1 to 5. If you're not familiar with immersion days, they are half-day long hands-on workshops that are led by Trend Micro and AWS experts, and they're designed to help you address your organization's cloud security challenges. So this month is going to be on file storage, just how this demo was. So if you'd like to kind of take it the next step and get hands-on with the trial and join us for immersion day, we'd love to have you. And I'm going to also pop this registration link into the chat for everybody, so y'all have access to that. That was pretty much all I had. And thank you guys again for joining us, and hope to see you guys next year, or sorry, not next year, next month. I'm already going up to 2023. Hope to see y'all next month. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.